Y'all, I'm gonna try and keep my composure throughout this entire video. This is a topic that I'm super passionate about and a topic that needs to be talked about. So bear with me and listen. Hi. For those who don't know me, my name is Savonne Pearson and I am a senior at Ball State University. Now you read the title. We're here to talk about some serious stuff. As a Black student at this university, I'm severely disappointed in how this situation was handled and the escalation of the situation just in general. Just one day after Martin Luther King Day was just celebrated and during the university's Unity Week, a situation occurred. So what situation am I talking about? Let's get into it. Let me get my notes. All right, I got my binder of notes because I want to make sure I get all the facts straight. An account by the name of Barstool Ball State posted a video with the caption, "Professor really called the cops on kid for not moving seats in the middle of class." Yes, you heard that right. Professor really called cops on kid for not moving his seat in the middle of the class. The video currently sits at 16,000 views on Instagram and 150K on Twitter. Now let me tell you what happened. So I'm gonna play the video for you guys so you guys can kind of see what happened and form your opinion. I'm gonna do a quick summary just so you know what you're looking at, but essentially in the video you'll see the professor Shaheen Borna insisting that the student move to the front and the student's off camera as he's in the back of the classroom, and you see the professor with two officers on the side of him and he's insisting that the student sit in the front of the classroom. Here, go ahead and take a look.
Are you in this class?
Yeah.
What should I talk to you about?
I'm just asking
Well,
him to
sir.
sit here.
Did you want to sit?
No, that's fine with me. But
Okay.
he said I'm not going to.
My laptop is on the charger.
No, if he sits here, that's fine with me. But you know I'm not going to sit. I do whatever I like to.
All right, you want to sit here or do you want to leave?
Why am I moving in the middle of class? He legit stopped the class to try to move me. I've been back here on this PowerPoint.
Are you being disruptive in the class?
No, I'm not doing nothing. The whole class, the whole damn class is here.
He's
It's
been
cool.
on the
It's
lesson
cool.
the whole
You know what?
time.
I'ma leave.
He's been on
I'ma
our work
leave.
the whole time with a plug
I got
in.
some
He
stuff over
hasn't
there.
said or done anything wrong.
You guys not said a word,
Well, that's
you
not
know,
gonna work.
the PowerPoint, and
I don't know what the fuck you messing with, boy.
What I do, you want to, whatever your name is, take it up to the
Hey,
dean.
it's
You want
cool.
to get your backpack?
Yeah, don't even worry about it, boss man.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna break this video down so you can really see what happens step by step, so you can understand what's going on and what you just saw. The student was later revealed to be Mufasa Benson. I'm using Mufasa because that's the name that I know him by, and that's the name that the university knows him by. From what I understand, he doesn't really use his real first name as much, so for the purpose of respecting him, I'm gonna call him Mufasa. So let's start going down this chain of events. Mufasa walks into the classroom and he sees that his seat is taken. His normal seat that he sits at in the front of the classroom is taken. He looks at the professor and the professor says, yeah, just Borna says, go find a seat in the back of the classroom. It's cool, whatever. That's very key. Borna told him to go find a seat in the back of the classroom since his seat was taken. Mufasa goes to the back of the classroom. He notices his laptop's about to die. He's like, cool, I'm buying an electrical outlet. I'm about to charge my laptop, settle in, and he just gets ready to learn and see what the class has going on. Halfway through the class, the girl that was sitting in his assigned seat ended up leaving for some reason. Borna then, about 5 minutes later, stops the class and says, hey, Mufasa, this girl's gone. Can you come and sit and move your stuff to come sit at the front of the classroom? Wait, move his stuff so he can go sit at the front of the classroom? So you just stopped the entire class to tell this man to relocate all of his things to come to the front of the classroom? For what? So naturally Mufasa refused. He's like, no, I'm charging my laptop. I'm pretty comfortable back here. I'm just listening to your lecture. I'm just trying to learn. Like, why are you singling me out? I don't understand. And that's when Borna says, you got two options. Two options. One, you move to the front of the classroom, or two, I will call university police on you. Yes, I will call university police on you. So upon talking to a couple students that take his class, apparently this professor Borna has this really strict policy. He's been teaching here at Ball State University since 1987, and his policies have not changed since then. Since the incorporation of technology in college campuses, which is normal, Borna has this rule where if you're on your laptop in class, you must sit in the front of the classroom so that he can kind of monitor what you're doing. He wasn't the only student that was sitting in the back, but he was the only student that was called on to move to the front of the classroom. The professor says it was because he has his laptop, but really we don't know his real reasoning why. We don't know his real reasoning, or we don't want to talk about his real reasoning. Now that's an alleged, but once I get into social media a little bit later, you'll learn a little bit more about this professor and you'll see where I'm coming from. So he gives him the two options and Mufasa says, no, I'm going to stay back here and I'm going to continue to pay attention in class and charge my laptop. That's just what's going to happen. So Borna, you know what he does? He leaves the classroom and comes back a few minutes later. Apparently, when he left the classroom, he asked the student employee to call university police. He did not tell them what to call university police about. He just told them to make the call and send them to his classroom. Now that account is according to Kathy Wolf, who is the Vice President of Marketing and Communications here at Ball State. Mind you, this whole thing happened in a marketing class. Great marketing, Ball State. So following the call, 2 university police officers make their way to the classroom. Mind you, again, they don't know what the situation is, and they're just as confused as the rest of the class and Mufasa for why he needed to call the UPD cops on him. So I'm going to read this quote verbatim so that you know exactly what she said. Following the call, Kathy Wolf said, 2 UPD officers arrived to the classroom without much information to work with. Based on the limited information they had, they believed that there was a student in distress. That's what they had in mind when they responded. So let me get this straight. These 2 UPD officers walk up thinking that they're about to de-escalate a situation of a student in distress. After UPD was called, Mufasa, rightfully so, went live on his Instagram account. Now you guys know what day and age we live in. He is a black student, a black human being, a black citizen of the United States, and he just had 2 white university police called on him. Of course, he's going to do whatever he needs to do to make sure that he's safe in that situation. So the officers arrive and they're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. You hear Borna, who's just like, come to the front of the classroom. I want him to sit in the front of the classroom. While the rest of the class is like, he's not being disruptive. He's not doing anything. He literally was just back there on his PowerPoint. He wasn't doing anything big. He wasn't disrupting the class. He was just there listening just like the rest of us. No one understood why there had to be 2 police officers there in the middle of a lecture on a Tuesday, the day after Martin Luther King Day, during Ball State University's Unity Week. And the kicker is, you see him in the video hand a charger to one of the students off camera and then says, okay, I'm just going to go. I don't want this situation to be escalated. Mufasa gets up and leaves the classroom that he pays $300 per credit hour to be in. He paid to be in that classroom, regardless of what your technology policy is, regardless of anything. He paid to be in that classroom. Now, what he does with that time that is not disruptive has nothing to do with you as the professor, and has everything to do with him and what he thinks of his own education. If he wants to go to the class and do whatever on his laptop, which he was not doing, but that is his right, because he paid to be in that classroom. I'm just really trying to figure out, when did classroom policies start becoming enforced by police officers? I get it if you want to have a policy in your classroom, but involving the law means that there's a law being broken. Your classroom policy, honey, is not a law. So what are university police officers doing here? So Mufasa goes out in the hall with the university police officers, and they're just still trying to gauge what's happening because, again, Borna had the student call and the student didn't know what was going on. And Mufasa even says, like, the police officers just appear to be confused, like they don't know what's going on. And they even give him advice and say, hey, I think you should take action about this because this seems like a very serious situation. I think you should probably take action. And that's exactly what he's doing. So after the class, Mufasa went to Twitter and he posted, really just had the police called on me in class. Ball State, I'm totally disappointed. As he should be, as I am, as the rest of the student body is. Ball State then responds, we are aware of the incident and reviewing the situation. At Ball State, we are committed to a successful student experience. Anytime a student does not have an excellent student experience, we care deeply and review the matter thoroughly as we are doing at this time. Okay. After the situation actually started picking up traction, the professor, Borna, sent out an email to the entire class apologizing for the situation. Now, before I get into his email, I just want to really say something. He sends an email to the entire class, not to Mufasa specifically for calling the police on him and having him leave the class, but to the entire class for mishandling the situation. Let me read his little message. As a professor at Ball State University, it is my responsibility to ensure that you and all of my students receive an excellent educational experience. I'm sorry that my actions today did not contribute to that. So basically, the professor says, I'm sorry, I mishandled the situation. Okay, let's move on. No, that's not what's going to happen, and that's not what's been happening. So after that, I've been reading a lot of the news articles, and Borna just refuses to talk. There's even an interview where I think Fox 59 talked to him, and they had him on camera, but he says, I refuse to comment, and then he just goes off screen. I got words, but let's keep going. So shortly after Borna sent out his email, Ball State University's president, President Mearns, sent out an email to the entire student body detailing what happened and what his thoughts were, and basically apologizing for the situation. Let me read that to you, and you just formulate your own opinion. You know, this is not the first time something like this has happened at Ball State, but one thing that I've noticed since the couple situations that has happened is that the president always, even in these emails, they always address the specific person that the email is being sent to. For example, my email says, Dear Savonne. So it's kind of like a more personable marketing approach, but let me just get into the email. Dear Savonne, I write to provide you with an update on the recent events unfolding this week on campus. Although I have been in California for the last few days attending alumni events that we paid for, Provost Susanna Rivera Mills and I have been closely monitoring the situation. As I prepare to board a plane this morning, I want to share my thoughts with you regarding what transpired and what we can learn as a community going forward. What we can learn as a community going forward. What we can learn. Okay. The classroom is a special place. It is a place of invigorated learning, and it should always be a welcoming environment for all of our students. In the incident this week, we did not meet that important standard. Yeah. As you may have learned through media accounts, basically what he's saying is, as you have seen on social media, something that I'm addressing because it's out on social media, during a classroom session, a member of our faculty insisted on a student moving to another seat. When the student did not agree to do so, the professor had the university police called. This choice was a gross error of judgment, and it was simply an unwarranted overreaction. Period. Upon learning of that incident, the dean and department chair, at the request of the provost, met with the professor to express our collective concern that the situation had unnecessarily escalated. The dean established corrective actions, including appropriate training and oversight for the professor going forward. So let me tell you a little bit about this professor. You should know this man is, of course, tenured. And basically what tenured means, it's like he's basically a permanent professor here at Ball State. He's not going anywhere. So what he's saying is, we gave him some training, he'll be better, and we'll monitor him now, and okay, it's solved. No, it's not. Allegedly, I'll say allegedly, but this isn't the first time this has happened with this professor at all. This is just the first time it's been publicized. The professor also sent an apology to all the students in the class for the incident and how it was handled. In addition, the department chair promptly met with the students to make sure we fully understand the student's experience and how we can best support him. And this morning, the department chair will be meeting with all of the students in the class. This unfortunate incident provides all of us with another opportunity, because again, this is not the first time something like this has happened on this campus. Another opportunity to get better and learn how to fulfill our commitment to providing an inclusive and supportive environment for every member of our university community. See, it wasn't a race issue until it was. And You know, people are talking about, well, it's not about him being black. It's not about him being a black student. If it's not about him being a black student, then why is the university president of addressing this situation as if it was something that occurred because he was black? Why is he talking about making it more inclusive for more students to make Ball State more of a community if it wasn't about this particular student being black? To that end, I commit to you that the learning process begins with me and my colleagues. Here are my immediate plans. When I return to campus, I hope that the student will agree to meet with me so I can hear firsthand what transpired in the classroom on Tuesday. He's going to go meet with the student and try and discuss it. He has not reached out to the student, but he has put in this email that that's what he plans to do. I will also work with Interim Vice President for Student Affairs, Roanne Royer-Ingle, to arrange a meeting with student leaders to hear their perspective and suggestions on how we can improve. Once again, because this isn't the first time this has happened. The provost will work with all the deans to ensure appropriate training for all faculty. Next Thursday, I'll meet with the, get this, next Thursday, I'll meet with the Black Faculty and Staff Association to seek their guidance on how we can continue to create a more inclusive campus community. I will also reach out to the leadership of the Black Alumni Constitute Society to seek their counsel as well. If this wasn't a black issue before, it is a black issue now. I will also arrange a meeting with some of our local community leaders to obtain their input and support for our efforts to improve. These are initial steps. As we work together as a campus community to implement our new inclusive excellence plan, this listening and learning process, this is just a listening and learning process. A student had to leave a classroom because he was forcibly made to leave because university police officers were there to handle the situation because the professor could not handle the situation on his own without bringing in more authority figures to intimidate this black student. Man, it's getting dark. I've been talking about this for a minute. This listening and learning process will enable us to use this unfortunate event to build a better and more inclusive university community. Sincerely, Jeffrey S. Mearns, President, Ball State University. We've gotten that email before. As of now, we know that Mufasa met with the dean of that college, and he was able to move to a completely different marketing class with a different professor. Again, that doesn't solve the issue, but at least he is safe and out of that position and having to deal with the professor. Allegedly, the student that recorded the video is actually being harassed by this professor, and I say allegedly because we don't know for sure, but y'all know how this goes and these situations go. This whole situation is just, it's so exhausting just to think. So let's just go on social media because I really want to show you what the response was. This is outrageous and we should not have to deal with this. And this is not something that I want to worry about as a black student on a PWI campus anymore. I just don't want to worry about this. But let's go through social media and let's see what everyone's saying. So my friend and I went through social media and we kind of went through different tweets and Instagram comments, and we were just kind of seeing what people were talking about. The common thread that we found is Mufasa is not the only student that has encountered this professor in a negative way. He's not the only person that this professor has targeted, and people are now sharing their stories. They're not staying silent. So I'm going to read a few just so that you can know what's going on too. One student says, "He used to always use me as an example because of my race. He never asked my race, but assumed so much in front of the class. I called him out and aced his class. He asked for forgiveness after my final. I told him we were not cool. He was always threatening to do this to kids in my class a few years ago. He has tenure and dare students to complain about him. That is also another thing that I've heard, is that this professor is very egotistical, and he says, well, I'm tenure. You can't do anything about that. You're not going to be able to do anything about it. Try to report me. He's very egotistical. It's just really sickening to think that students have to put up with a professor like that when we're just here to get our education. And this is not the only professor that does this, but this is the professor that we are talking about right now. And he has no right to treat the students the way he does at all. He told a student he had to plead to the school to not fail the class because he had to always miss classes to play away games. He asked the same student randomly in class where he could find good soul food and repeatedly made rude stereotypical comments about him being black. Borna is trash. Oh. And then we have people on the opposing side who are defending this professor. There's one student that says, "Love Borna. I had many classes with him. Was a bit drastic, but respect your teachers and move seats when they ask. Sheesh." Like the problem's that simple. Like it's that simple. I also have different professors on social media, and even professors are speaking out. One professor in particular, Angela Jackson Brown, who is an English professor here at Ball State's campus, had a lot to say. There's a situation going on at Ball State right now that I don't have all the details about, so I won't speak to it specifically, but I will say this. Just because a person has a PhD, it does not mean that the person is qualified to teach. Having knowledge and effectively knowing how to share that knowledge are two different things. Just because a person has pages of publishing and or research listed on their vita does not mean that the person has the emotional capacity to teach. It takes a special kind of person to stand in front of the room and connect to their students. Some folks just need to stick to publishing and researching. Teaching is not everyone's lane, and there is no shame in that. Just because someone has tenure, it should not preclude that person from being held accountable for their behaviors inside of the classroom. Period. Tenure is being used as a weapon by some folks. Shoddy teaching is shoddy teaching, and I don't care how many degrees you possess or how long you've been tenured. Poor teaching should never be rewarded. I have taught on and off for the last 26 years. I have never, thank goodness, had to call security or the police to de-escalate a situation in my classroom. But if I did, I would definitely weigh the cost of doing such a thing, particularly when the student is Black, and we already know how those situations will go. So my final thoughts. I have so many thoughts. But primarily, I just wanted to share this story. This is something that we need to talk about. This is something that is not okay and should not be swept under the rug. This is something that Ball State really needs to handle, and they need to handle with care. This is not something that can be fixed with training. We need to figure this out. If we come together as a community and really talk about this issue and not sweep it under the rug, like some things that have been swept under the rug, it's time to talk about it. Let's keep this conversation going, because this is serious, this is important, and this is not going anywhere.